Hi and welcome to my channel. My name is Tonya and this is Create with Tonya. I'm so glad that you can join me today for these DIYs. If you are new to this channel, welcome, and if you are a returning subscriber, welcome back. Thank you so much for subscribing. I know this is a new channel and I would ask that if you're not subscribed that you will go ahead and please subscribe and turn on that bell notification so that you can be notified every time I upload a new video. So what I have for you today are 3 DIYs. One is a wreath and the other one is a joy sign, and it was so hard to find these letters in the store, so I decided to make mine out of cardboard. And the other one is a one of those plastic baskets from Dollarama that I hack. And if you are interested in these, please stick around and see what I do with them. For our first project, we're going to be making a giant wreath. And for this wreath, you'll need an assortment of Christmas picks and whatever decorations you want to put inside. I chose to do houses and Christmas trees. This house was actually an arrow from the Dollar Tree that I cut out windows and doors out of. You're going to need wool and pool noodles. Here I'm using the Walmart wool. And then for my noodles, I took 2 noodles that are the same size and I cut off a bit off of each of them to get the size wreath that I wanted, and I taped them together using duct tape. And now I'm wrapping my circle with wool, and I'm adding a bit of hot glue in the beginning just to secure it, but really you don't need that much hot glue, just a little bit ever so often. And just a tip, it is easier to do this with 2 persons, and one person wraps and the other one passes the wool through the circle like you see me doing here. And my husband was kind enough to help me with that, and the process was a lot easier. I'll continue to wrap this and I'll be back when we're done. Okay, I'm done wrapping that pool noodle, and now I'm working on wrapping a smaller piece of the pool noodle, and you can see how I do the top there. I just went up and down just to cover that part of the pool noodle, and then I'm going to be wrapping this pool noodle around in the same manner, just going around until I cover the whole pool noodle. And I just came back to show you how I end it off. So I just go up and around that pool noodle, the end of the pool noodle, and then I'm going to repeat the process in the opposite direction. So I'm going to put a little bit of hot glue. This is where you need most of your hot glue. Other than that, you don't need a lot of hot glue to wrap this. And then you just keep going in that manner until that bottom of that pool noodle is completely covered. After I've finished wrapping the bottom of the noodle, I'm going to continue wrapping that noodle around until I reach the top. And you're going to keep wrapping until it looks like this. Here's a look at it, all completed. I'm connecting the pool noodle to the wreath using some wire ties. And I am making sure that I position those wire ties between the wool that they do not show. And for this, I use about 2 wire ties, 1 at each end. Next, I am adding a bit of hot glue to the wire tie where I cut so that it wouldn't be sharp. And then I can pull the wool over it and cover that up so I won't scratch myself while working on this wreath. At the back of my Christmas tree, I did glue one of those blocks, and that's so when I put my trees together that they do not touch. And also I've glued a popsicle stick, a giant popsicle stick, onto my tree, and I am wrapping that with some of that same white wool, and that's just so that when I put it onto my wreath that it kind of camouflages that stick just in case some of it happen to peek out. So this is the back of my wreath, I flipped it over and I'm gluing my first tree down to the back of my wreath. I went ahead and wrapped wool around the bottom of that second tree, and I'm kind of gluing it onto the first tree but on a side. Next I went ahead and glued my houses down, and let me show you what I did at the back. At the back, this is how it looks. I glued popsicle sticks to the houses, and then I added some more wool across those popsicle sticks for reinforcement. And the little golden tree that you can see there in the middle of the houses, that was actually a Christmas pick that I cut down to make it look like a tree. And I glued it on to the back of that first house, the house that's right on top of the wreath. I'm adding my greenery, going in the same direction, and I'm going to be adding greenery for about half of this wreath. And I did go ahead and cut down my pits to the size that I wanted them, and then I stuck them down with hot glue onto my wreath. I cut the end off of one of the pits, and I'm going to hot glue it in between the houses so they can stand up a bit better. Although I found that once I put it onto the wall that they did stand up quite well by themselves. I went ahead and took apart some of the pits, and I am filling in areas on the wreath that looks a little bit sparse. Dollarama had these beautiful pits. They look like berries to me, and I'm going to be using these to fill in my wreath, and I'm going to be starting at the top just so that I can go in the same direction as the first greenery that I laid down. I went ahead and finished adding my berries off camera. I used gold and silver, and I used some of those pine pits greenery from Dollarama just to give my wreath a little more fullness and dimension because I love a full wreath. Now I'm adding lights, and let's take a look at how it all turned out. Our next project is our joy sign, and here I am using a wreath from Dollarama. I am using cardboard letters that I cut out, and I stacked 4 pieces of cardboard together just to get it the same thickness as the wreath. I am gluing the wool to my letter, to my Y, and I am starting at the top, just gluing that wool straight across and then cutting off that wool before I start wrapping the body of the letter, just so that it will be nice and neat. Next, I'm going to start wrapping the body of the wreath. I dab a little glue in the corner there of my wool, and I am going to keep wrapping that around, going down till I reach the middle. We're at the middle, and you're going to do the exact thing on the other side. We're at the middle, and we're going to start gluing our wool, and we're going to place it at the corner of one of the Y shape thingies. Not quite sure what it's called, but you can see what I'm doing, and you are going to glue that in like a upside down V, like a curve, just following the curve of the Y there, and you're going to do that all the way down, and then you're going to flip your Y over, and you're going to continue to the other side doing the exact same thing, and we're going to do that until we reach the straight part of our letter. We're at the straight part of the letter, and I'm going to end the wool right here and cut that part off, and then I am going to continue from the bottom, doing it the exact same way that we did the top part of our letter. We're back where we cut that first wool, and we're just going to join it in, pushing that wool inside so it connects very well and is seamless. We're starting on our J, and we're going to do those straight edges the exact same way that we did our Y, and I'm going to go ahead and do all the straight edges. Now we are at the middle of that J, and I am going to glue the wool straight down, cutting off the excess so that we can go ahead and have a neat wrap on that letter J. Starting in the corner, I'm going to be sticking that wool down on the straight part of our J, and I'm going to be wrapping that all around until we reach the curve of the J. We are at our curve, and I am going to be gluing in the middle of that curve and then working my way back to the middle of that wool. You can see what I'm doing here. I don't know if I explained it properly, but just take a look at what I'm doing. I'm going to go ahead and end my wrapping right here just before I reach the bottom. And I am going to start wrapping from the bottom of this J to finish off this letter because it will turn out a lot neater. So let me apologize if you hear my kids in the background. I do have 5 of them. But right here I am gluing my picks to my wreath, and I am using those same beautiful berries, and I am using them in white, and I am not gluing them in the same direction this time. I am doing them in the opposite direction of each other, and I'm just bending them so that they curve with the wreath just the way that I like it. I'm going to be adding some more greenery to this wreath, and just gluing it into the places that I want it. Not too much to overpower it, but just enough so that it looks a little bit fuller. So I went ahead and added flowers to the middle of those pits. I did silver and gold, and I also cut apart a leaf pit, and I added it to various places within the wreath. Now I am painting the green pits with white acrylic paint just to soften them a little bit and to have a snowy effect. I also put some of those same decorations into the corners of my letters just so that I can tie everything together. Now let's take a look at how it turned out. Our final project is this basket from Dollarama, and these are so popular. And I have some wool. I'm using wool from Walmart, and this basket and my glue gun. I went ahead and tape off the basket right below the handle, with painter's tape, and I sprayed paint the top of the basket gold. So here I am starting with a little bit of hot glue and putting that wool right there under the handle, and then I'm going to start wrapping that wool around. I leave a little bit of the tail of the wool there so that I can later hide that tail, and so it will, be neat. I am at the bottom, and I'm being sure to take that wool right to the edge of my basket, and then I'm actually going to work my way back up the basket for a second time, just because I want my basket to be plush and have a full look. to the top of the basket, and I'm just going to end that off, making sure that it is seamless and everything, and then I'm going to cut it off there. And let's take a look at how it all turned out. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today and watching me do these DIYs. If you enjoy them, please be sure to give me a thumbs up. It helps out my channel so much. Please consider subscribing and hit that bell notification button that you can be notified every time I upload a new video. Thank you so much for watching. Bye guys.